What is a megachurch? The term megachurch, commonly used to refer to a church that is nearly always a Protestant Christian church with a regular attendance of at least 2,000 people, is still relatively new. While there have always been places of worship with huge memberships, the earliest groups that may be considered megachurches existed in the middle of the 19th century. Even still, these gigantic churches remained outliers and exceptions for more than a century. Welcome to Finance Professor. In this video, we'll unravel the dark side of megachurches. The concept of megachurches emerged in the middle of the 20th century. Almost all congregations currently classified as megachurches were founded after 1955. However, it was in the 1980s that these large places of worship took off. Since then, both the number of megachurches and the size of the typical congregation have grown year over the year in the United States. Numerous people believe that megachurches benefit those seeking spiritual connection and the communities they serve. Megachurches draw people together by transforming worship into an exciting, magnificent event. But, as the phenomenon has become more well known, issues have emerged. Any significant movement or organization will inevitably have drawbacks, but these drawbacks can often be substantial given the mega in megachurch. This is the negative aspect of megachurches. Most likely, when you see megachurches, you picture a polished, smiling pastor standing in front of a sizable congregation, while most likely donning a really fine suit. And since many megachurches are affiliated with what is known as the prosperity gospel, it's likely that the pastor flies around on a private jet and resides in a mansion. The gospel is the belief that if you pray fervently enough, God will make you wealthy. It can be summarized as the idea that God rewards faith with material prosperity. You'd be right if you thought that went against some of the fundamental Christian beliefs, because it excuses systematic injustices and places the blame for poverty squarely on the individual. It's implied that if you're suffering, your faith is insufficient. For materialistic pastors, it offers cover. Guy pastors like Joel Osteen, who is worth about $50 million and a pastor of the megachurch Lakewood Church, don't need to hide the money they receive from the church since their riches are merely a reflection of their righteousness and faith. Some have theorized that some of the blame for the 2008 subprime housing crisis might be attributed to adherents of the prosperity gospel, which took out loans that they couldn't afford because they believed that God was rewarding their faith. And it's not just a problem in the United States. For years, there have been controversy about the wealth of megachurch pastors in Africa. They encourage selfishness. It's unnatural to believe that those who attend megachurches are deeply spiritual and pious people. After all, churches have historically served as community hubs, and attendance in churches is ingrained in American culture. Megachurches have a fake veneer of piety because people assume that only good, committed Christians have the leisure to attend church services. However, as Pastor Jeremy Howard pointed out, the teachings of megachurches frequently contradict the traditional Christian idea of service and charity. Megachurches, on the other hand, promote a selfish and self-centered understanding of worship. Megachurch congregations often instruct their members to concentrate on their own lives and issues rather than seeing themselves as servants who should care for others. In turn, they're prodded to see God as a means of achieving their goals. This is consistent with the prosperity gospel, which is frequently at the heart of the megachurch doctrine and holds that God rewards faith with success and material wealth. The Journal Standard pointed out that megachurch congregants are typically younger and more likely to be single than those of traditional churches. Most alarmingly, 45% of megachurch attendees don't volunteer to help their neighborhood, highlighting their massive services celebration of the self. Our sense of community is deteriorating because of megachurches. Services take place in an established church, which is very small. A few dozen to several hundred members, many of whom are neighbors, may make up a small town church's congregation or even a big city neighborhood church. On the other hand, in a megachurch, thousands of people attend extravagant, professionally staged services, often with television viewing. This mostly promotes spectator worship. Because of the size of the crowds, most visitors refrain from actively participating. The anonymity that attendees enjoyed is viewed as a strength of megachurches, since entering for the first time is a secure and pleasant experience. However, it implies little sense of community. The experience is more likely going to a performance. Most megachurches spend time and money providing passive entertainment. Pastor Jeremy Howard emphasizes how this encourages individuals to remain private because they can blend in with the audience, take in the performance, and feel no need to participate. At a megachurch, tens of thousands of people may attend services over a week, but they rarely interact with one another, which undermines any sense of community. Because they may blend in with the audience, take in the show, and feel no need to participate, Pastor Jeremy Howard emphasizes how this encourages people to remain private. Even though tens of thousands of people may attend services at a megachurch throughout the week, they rarely interact or meet one another, which hinders any sense of community. Are megachurches making worship into a show? Before we move on, subscribe to Finance Professor and enable that bell icon. Anyone raised a Christian likely remembers being bored to tears at church as a child and possibly receiving a reprimand for making a scene. Worship services are not meant to be entertaining or thrilling. They're intended to be edifying, unite people in their faith, and reaffirm Christian principles. Megachurches have changed throughout time to resemble entertainment centers more. They frequently stage their services in enormous theaters and in arenas that hold many worshippers and have high production values. As a result, church services and entertainment are increasingly confused in society. They're operated like corporates. The church's pastors behave more like CEOs than spiritual leaders, and megachurches frequently create marketing and publicity teams to assist in maintaining and evening their expanding their membership. A whole business has developed around making megachurches even bigger. Megachurches, however, differ from conventional corporations in two ways. They profit from a huge number of unpaid volunteers who frequently invest a significant amount of their time working on the church's behalf and are free from numerous taxes. The corporatization of religion has a negative aspect because of how driven by expansion the megachurches have become. According to MSNBC, a few megachurches are considering opening satellite locations that operate like franchises. This could have a Walmart effect by drawing worshippers away from the local church's more traditional settings. According to the 2016 Large Church Salary Study from the Leadership Network, staff salaries account for nearly 50% of the budgets of large churches that are predominantly supported by congregational giving. Most churches also keep their congregations in the dark about the specifics of these payments. Megachurches, congregations with weekend attendance of 2,000 or more adults and children, were surveyed to gather data for the study. The only other option is for congregation members to request information about the wages certain church employees receive. Churches are exempt from filing Form 990, a document used by the US Internal Revenue Service to disclose financial data on charitable organizations, including places of worship like synagogues and mosques. The laity continues to be concerned about the church's lack of transparency. Megachurch in Singapore is under the harsh spotlight due to a fraud trial. The pastor who reportedly stole almost $40 million from the Singapore megachurch that he and his wife created to support her pop singing career in the US is the ideal scandal for a region of the world known more for its worship of money and malls than spirituality. The case has cast an unusually bright light on Singapore, a typically quiet region of Asia, but it has also brought out to mind how faith and deception plague the churches in other parts of the world. It's claimed that money set aside for a new church building was diverted to a phony bond scam. Then, it said the church accounts were fabricated to make it appear that the bonds had been redeemed. However, the shady culture that lurks behind the glitz and glamour of the many megachurches goes beyond lusty preachers. According to the Columbus Dispatch, claims of sexual abuse at an orphanage run by megachurch surfaced in 2019, leading to the dismissal of the pastor of the Christ Community Chapel in Ohio. According to NBC News, a megachurch in Louisiana held boot camps where teenagers were made to engage in hazardous manual labor until they puked. Minorities and women were subjected to nasty remarks, and teens considered gay suffered emotional assault for days. What do you think about the dark side of megachurches? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, feel free to subscribe to this channel for more interesting finance updates. Check out the other videos on our channel, and we'll see you in the next one.